Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. At the recent WBC convention towards the end of last year, Mauricio Suleiman stated the WBC will no longer be charging a sanctioning fee to female fighters. It's my understanding that for a long time now they haven't charged the women.
It's more noble than what I expected of them.
The World Boxing Council, often described as a parasitic entity that looks to siphon sanctioning fees off wherever a boxing match is happen, provides amnesty to women boxers, and as stated, that's more noble than what I expected of them. Mauricio, in his own words, said that the women in previous instances have earned so little, so few dollars from a boxing match, it just wouldn't be right to charge them.
Does everybody else have this same stance? The WBO, the WBA, and the IBF?
I'm not sure, but I was told some time ago that the World Boxing Council doesn't charge the women for title fights, and that's good. So I suppose that professional courtesy extends to women boxers that actually are with a major promotional outfit, like, say, Caroline Dubois, who's with Boxer, Katie Taylor, who's with Matchroom, Sky Nicholson.
They're all WBC champions.
Gabby Fundora and Yo Castavalle, they're with Golden Boy. Tina Ruprecht, she's got a WBC title. One is left to wonder, if they're not making any money off of this, then what's the incentive for the WBC to even sanction women's boxing matches? And I would say the profile of the organization.
Positive press and being on the right side of history. That during the big boom in women's boxing, the World Boxing Council was helping to enhance the profile of the sport by sanctioning these boxing matches at no charge.
If there is a benefit, I would say that's it. Enhancing the organization's profile in a positive way. So while the World Boxing Council might do one or two things that I don't agree with, like not sanctioning women's boxing matches for 3-minute rounds.
I don't agree with that.
I do agree with this. While some WBC champions have more of a profile and more opportunity than some others, the ones that are with a major promotional outfit boxing on a major platform, there are others that are not as fortunate, are not making as much money. World Boxing Council Super Flyweight champion Ashley Gonzalez almost immediately comes to mind. That girl can't be making much money.
Tina Ruprecht is one of the best in the sport, one of the best I've seen, but she can't be making much money from her fights.
Downstairs at atomweight, upstairs at light flyweight, I don't imagine that Lourdes Suarez is making very much money from her fights.
Or Emma Kozin upstairs at junior middleweight from hers.
She is a WBC champion that while there has been a renaissance in women's boxing that is now bigger than it's ever been, there's still more work needs doing to where everybody can earn a decent living wage from being a fighter. And we're not there yet. Not everybody's making the same money as, say, Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, or even Caroline Dubois for boxing on a major platform under a major promotional banner. Not everybody's making the same money or even comparable money.
Not charging the women sanctioning fees affords them the same opportunity to become champions just like the men, and the ability to parlay that into something bigger and better money.
The benefits of becoming a world champion in the sport of boxing and what the fighter and their management team can turn that into, parlay that into.
It's good.
And a lot more noble than what I expected from the World Boxing Council.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, Teofimo Lopez's reaction to Devin Haney's recent announcement that he will be returning in March against an opponent that is yet to be announced.
Teofimo said, "With Teofimo, you punk bitch!"
Jesus Christ.
Is that with Teofimo or without? Because the latest news when it comes to that was that Devin Haney turned down a fight with Teofimo. He turned down an offer from Top Rank. And I saw a recent interview with Bill Haney where he said they are not going to fight Teofimo on the Top Rank side of things, on ESPN.
So what, they're fighting him on Black Prime?
I'm not sure. I thought that Teofimo was in the middle of negotiating a fight, a pay-per-view, with Subriel Matias. That's the latest when it comes to Teofimo. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Crawford.
Recent sparring footage of Devin Haney in action has surfaced, and it would appear that he's getting ready to box a southpaw, a guy who leads with the right, where Teofimo leads with his left.
Teo's an orthodox fighter. Devin's getting ready to fight a southpaw, it looks like.
Widespread speculation suggests that he may end up fighting Blair Cobbs on Black Prime, and Blair Cobbs
is a southpaw. He's also a free agent. He's not attached to nobody. I don't get the sense that Devin Haney can make 140 pounds anymore. It's conceivable that he may move up to welterweight in his very next fight, and Blair Cobbs is just as good a guy as anybody to get your feet wet at 147 pounds. The added intrigue is that Devin Haney hits like a girl.
Like a bitch.
So even in a situation where tactically and technically he's the more well-schooled boxer, without enough pop to keep these guys off of him, he could be in a precarious situation, even with a Blair Cobbs. What if he walks through your best punches? I think the Mayweather era skewed people's perception of boxing in a boxing match, the peril that a boxer faces, that having great ring savvy, great ring IQ is all well and good, but some portion of what you're seeing and some portion of what you're experiencing is physical. It's not all psychological. It's not all mental. To some extent, you ain't gotta be to a better beef. You don't have to be the most heavy-handed guy, but to some extent, you have to have some pop. You have to be able to get some respect. And if you are debuting at a new weight, against fighters that are naturally bigger than the fighters that you're used to, if you don't have enough pop to keep them off, well, that could be a problem. Devin Haney had certain physical gifts and physical advantages as a lightweight because he was much taller and much longer than your average lightweight. And those extended to the super lightweight division for a short while. But at welter, you're not so big, you're not so tall, you're not so long. We know you ain't strong, you ain't a puncher. So this is all very interesting. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, former champion Demetrius Andrade says, "I don't think Terence Crawford can beat Canelo Alvarez." Two fighters pursuing a fight with the same Canelo Alvarez. With Demetrius, I think that guy was just showing up for a check. That's the only reason I think he was after that fight. But with Terence, it's different. Demetrius has added his voice to the many calls for a fight that would match Saul Canelo Alvarez against Terence Crawford. Andrade believes it would be a bridge too far for Crawford to defeat Alvarez at 168. Crawford of Omaha, Nebraska, recently moved up from 147 to campaign at 154, where last August he decisioned Israel Madrimov over 12 rounds to earn a WBA junior middleweight title after the win. Crawford publicly targeted Mexico's Canelo, arguably boxing's biggest superstar and certainly its biggest cash cow, but Andrade thinks moving up two divisions to face a foe of Alvarez's experience and skill would be too tall an order for Crawford. Well, how is it different? Crawford pursuing Canelo and Demetrius pursuing Canelo. It's the differences between Demetrius's career so far and Crawford's career so far. Look at Demetrius's resume at 154, at 160, and at 168. So this is a guy who was never really trying to establish himself as the best in show. Never unified nothing. Never Ring Magazine. Never Lineal. You were never trying to fight the best, and you only wanted to fight Canelo for the check. I love Crawford. He's a good friend. Andrade said in an interview with Fight Hub TV, "We reach out to each other. We've been traveling the world through the amateur program. He saw me beat people up. I saw him beat people up. I think the stories could go on. But when it comes to weight, empowerment, that shit is real. Canelo is a big bad wolf, and he can run the whole night. I think Crawford has the skills. But when it comes to Saul getting shots and blocking his power shots, Canelo knows how to move too. He has agility, not like a robot. I mean, it's gonna be tough. I don't think Crawford can beat Canelo, but I still think he can give him a good fight, and I'll be sitting there fuming for Canelo all day." No matter his thoughts on the outcome, Andrade described a possible Alvarez-Crawford fight as one of the biggest that can currently be made in boxing. That's a huge fight, he said. A lot of fans want to see it, like a lot of trainers I've spoken to said, and feel that Terence can bridge the gap between weight and make it even because he's so damn good with his IQ. Good enough to beat Canelo? So let's address the elephant in the room. A lot of Canelo's fans have been attacking Terence Crawford, tearing him down. Just because he wants to fight Canelo Alvarez. A lot of people want to fight Canelo Alvarez. What do you expect? It's the hurt business. Your homoerotic fixation with Canelo Alvarez is exposed even further when you get this mad, this upset that Terence wants to fight him. What's the big deal? He's not disrespecting Canelo, talking him down or tearing him down. He would just like to try his chances against him. And if Canelo's willing, there's a lot of money in it for him. So what is your problem? They say he's only doing it because of the money, that he's only doing it for the check. I don't agree with that, because if it were just about a check, he would have fought Conor McGregor.
You guys are a bunch of goddamn weirdos, you know that? Because you're looking at the same news that I'm looking at and saying this stuff. All the while, if it were just about a big check, then he would have did the circus fight with Conor.
They offered him a fortune to have a fight with Conor, 2 fights with Conor, a boxing match,
And an MMA fight. Obviously, Terrence is going to win the boxing match, and Conor would presumably win the MMA fight. But you lose the MMA fight, it's no biggie. It's not your town. It's not your sport.
If it were just about a check, getting a fat check, he would have did that. He wants to fight Canelo Alvarez for some other reason.
He likes his chances. He thinks he can win. And what better reason is there to want to fight Canelo? It's not like when Jermell Charlo did it. He was just showing up for a check. The same applies to Demetrius.
It's the only reason he wanted to fight Canelo.
What separates Terence Crawford from a guy like Demetrius Andrade is when you look at Demetrius's track record so far, you can see he didn't want to fight the best. Who did he fight at 154? Who did he fight at 160? All he did at 168 was get his ass kicked.
He was never Ring Magazine a lineal champion like Terence Crawford, never unified or undisputed like Terence Crawford, let alone 2 times like Terence Crawford.
You can't pretend that Demetrius and Terence are cut from the same cloth or motivated by the same things. They are so clearly not.
Another example.
Demetrius Andrade was ordered to fight Yanibek Alimkhanalai, and he chose to drop his belt, where Terence Crawford willfully took on a hot potato, a high-risk, low-reward guy in Israel Madrimov.
Wait a minute. Demetrius's defense, he did fight David Benavidez.
Yeah, after he painted himself into a corner and he had no other choice. He had no other options. You turned down so many fights already. What the hell else were you gonna do? You can't pretend that Demetrius and Terence are cut from the same cloth. They are so clearly not. So that when Terence Crawford targets a fight with Canelo, it's for more than just a check. It's because he believes he can win, even if you don't agree with him.
And I don't either.
That's no reason to get upset or to attack Terence. So what are you expecting these fighters to do? Just grovel at Canelo Alvarez's feet and lick his ass? Maybe that's your real problem. You want to lick his ass.
Culero.
Yeah, it's different when Terence wants to fight Canelo as opposed to Demetrius wanting to fight Canelo, because he doesn't want to fight and he doesn't believe he can win. He's just showing up for a check. Whereas Terence, he wants to fight for the right reasons. So I say, let them fight!
At the most, Canelo will prove you right and knock out Terence Crawford, make a fortune doing it, and you'll have something to watch.
But when you advocate against the fight, what that communicates is apprehensiveness. What that communicates is fear. Because why would you be against Canelo fighting a guy you think he can beat?
You think he knocks out Terence Crawford, right?
Right. So if Turkey LL Sheik is offering him a fortune to do it, then go ahead. You're not busy with anybody else.
Anything else?
I'm a huge fan of Canelo Alvarez, but I'm not so big a fan that I'm gonna mirror the fanaticism that I've been seeing in some circles. A lot of you guys are really weird.
Gay.
Let the fighters fight. Isn't that what we're all here for? To watch them do it. Do it! What are you afraid of? That they won't give Canelo any credit for beating Terence? They already don't give him credit for Edgar, and Jaime, and John,
And Caleb, and Callum, and Billy.
and Sergey. Wouldn't be the first time that Canelo Alvarez beat a quality guy and didn't get credit for it. So what are you afraid of?
Let him fight.
I don't really see what the problem is. All of this talk about Terence Crawford potentially moving up for Canelo Alvarez has led to a different kind of conversation, a fantasy fight, if you will. What would happen if Terence Crawford and Floyd Mayweather met up with each other in a time machine?
I don't think that Floyd Mayweather was unbeatable like some others do. No, anybody can be beaten on a long enough timeline, but for those few fighters who retire undefeated, all that means is you didn't stick around long enough for that to happen.
What would have happened to Andre Vard if he stuck around long enough to see himself opposite the ring Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev?
What would have happened?
Retiring undefeated is not all it's made out to be, and I'm not one of these young guys experiencing Floyd Mayweather for the first time via archived footage on YouTube. No, I watched his entire career, and I saw those moments where he looked less than spectacular with Castillo, with Maidana, where he looked human, where he was caught by Shane Mosley,
where he struggled with Emmanuel Augustus.
The mythos around a fighter is further enhanced when that fighter retires undefeated and people get the impression that nobody could get to him and nobody could beat him.
Maybe in their time they couldn't.
But there wasn't a fighter like Terence Crawford at any of those weights where Floyd campaigned in his era. And the same is true in reverse, which is what makes this a conversation.
Don't pretend that there's a right answer, because there isn't one. This is a fantasy fight. It's open to debate.
So as far as I'm concerned, the outcome of the match all depends on what weight it would take place. If you're talking about 135-pound Floyd Mayweather versus 135-pound Terence Crawford, I would edge the fight to Floyd at that weight, because at that weight, he was comparatively more experienced than Terence was. When he was there, Terence was just starting out.
At 135.
At 135, Floyd Mayweather was not yet Money Mayweather, he was Pretty Boy. And if you remember anything about Pretty Boy, he wasn't just fast, he was sharp, and he was strong. He still had power at that weight. So at that weight, I would give the fight to Floyd. At 140, it's a lot more even.
That's a 50-50 fight to me at 140, because Floyd was dominant, still dominant, but so was Terence at that weight, and he wasn't as green as he was at 135. That's where he became undisputed champion for the first time.
At 140. Now, at 147, I would give the fight to Terence at 147. I would edge the fight to Terence at that weight because his power carried up to 147 where Floyd Mayweather's didn't.
At 147, Floyd experienced hand issues to the point where he needed silocaine injections regularly just to be able to punch.
At 147, his work rate slowed and he focused more on accuracy and efficiency.
Beating the clock more than beating his opponent. He didn't knock people out anymore at 147.
Whereas Terence at 147 knocked out every single welterweight they put in front of him. Historically, Terence proved to be a bigger puncher at 147 than Floyd Mayweather did. And one other nuance, that in most, if not all, of Floyd Mayweather's fights, irrespective of the weight, he had the longer arms. He had more reach than everybody he fought, but he wouldn't have more reach than Terence Crawford. A nuance that flies under the radar, that not only is Terence a little taller than Floyd Mayweather, he's also a bit longer, with longer arms, and it's going to be a bit harder to roll punches off the shoulder when the guy doesn't need to be close to you to touch you.
The effectiveness of Floyd's Philly shell would be hampered, as well as the effectiveness of his pull counter, because a lot of it relied on him having longer arms than the other guy. You ain't got longer arms than Terence.
The way I see it, Floyd wins at 135, it's an even fight at 140, and Terence wins it at 147.
That's what I think.